Hello, thanks for tuning in. Today we are here to do a long-term review on a manual 2008 TRD edition FJ Cruiser. Uh, we've had this FJ Cruiser for a long time and it has had a journey of modifications. And each of these modifications were done to solve a certain purpose. And I think by this time, after modifying it differently, probably 4 or 5 times already, it's reached a point where I'm finally satisfied with its performance. So um, this is a slightly unique FJ. It has a lot of components. I don't know why. Toyota didn't put standard components in it. They put some fancy components in it, like the steering column, for example. I recently changed my steering column, and turns out that every other steering column which is there for a standard FJ, it doesn't fit mine. Mine had some unique steering column. Anyway, we found the part and we replaced it, so all good. But it's just similarly, my gearing is 391 versus 373, which is standard. But this works really in my favor. It really benefits me in the dunes because I'm able to put down that extra power, that extra torque. Let's start from the beginning. When the car came, obviously it had all the stock components. So the bumper was stock, everything was stock. It didn't have a snorkel, obviously. But since this was a TRD edition, it came with the Fox 1.5-inch lift with the Fox 2.0 shocks, front and rear. Front, obviously, coilovers, rear, just standard 2.0s. I think in about 2 years' time, we were able to break one of the shock shafts of the Fox 2.0 in the rear, which then made the car jump into the second cycle, where it got an air intake cone, an open air intake cone, and the Dobinson suspension. And that configuration didn't really last because we didn't like the Dobinson suspension. And that's not to say the Dobinson suspension is bad. For whatever reason, it didn't work for us and the FJ. We had the air intake, which also unfortunately sucked in a lot of sand and it blew up the engine. So we had to replace the engine. The third stage is when we had the icons. Icons were really good. So this was a standard 2.0 icon. I think it's a stage 4 kit, something like that. I mean, it came with the control arms and everything. So it might be something fancier, but if I remember correctly, it was a stage 4 kit. At the same time, the snorkel was done, or slightly before that, I would say. This snorkel it's about from that era, because you're doing these modifications separately as and when you need them. So when we blew up the engine, we realized that we need clean air. We don't want to be sucking sand in, because the standard intake system of the FJ is here in the passenger wheel well. That obviously every time you're turning a tire, you're throwing in some sand inside. If you suck it from here, especially if you have something like a pre-filter here, it really helps out. From Icon, so Icon, same thing happened where I broke the seals on my rear shocks, and by the time, so I had a drive, and I didn't want to abandon it. So I knew I had damaged my rear shocks, but I just kept going because I wanted to finish the drive. I said, this suspension is already damaged. How bad can it get, But it can get worse. So when you get a little bit of damage, stop the car or go out, taking an easy route. It's much better. But if you continue the drive, eventually your shocks in the rear don't have any oil, which does a bunch of other damage. So it's not a good idea. From there, we jumped on to the Rogue system, which has 2.5s, 2 of them in the front and 1 in the back, with finned reservoirs, quite decent sized reservoirs. I'm not sure if I've ever felt shock fading, even at very extreme use. I don't remember ever feeling shock fading in this suspension system. I have felt, even in the icons, I had felt shock fading. So this is the first suspension kit where I haven't felt any shock fading. The absorption is obviously really good. The front one was primarily added because I added a bumper and a winch in the front. And a necessity, if you're recovering enough people, you need to have a winch. That's my personal opinion. Like if you start recovering 5 people or more every weekend, then you should consider getting a winch. That's what I think. Besides this, I have a drawer system which is aluminum. So this car is not designed to be an overlander. It's not designed to be a road vehicle. It's designed to do dunes really well. For it to do dunes really well, I have opted for a 33-inch tire versus a stock 31.5-inch tire, which enables me traction. I've opted for the suspension system, which helps me further with the traction because it keeps my wheel pressed down. And I've tried to keep everything light. So even the components that I have added on, which are heavy, I've tried to somehow minimize that addition of weight. Although I would say the car can be much lighter because even my seats are those Lexus seats versus the standard seats. So it's a compromise of something which is comfortable, plus it can do dunes really well. So it's not a buggy, obviously. A buggy would be the one end of the spectrum, and the other end of the spectrum would be a Land Cruiser. This is somewhere in between. As always, if you found this video useful, please like the video. If you have any questions about my FJ, you can put them down in the comments below. We are going to do a few more things. Like for example, I've removed the front sway bars, the front sway bar link, which has increased my articulation a little bit, and I'm able to touch my wheel on the fender liners when I have full articulation plus turning. So I'm going to somehow resolve that. If you're interested to see how I do it, please subscribe to our channel, and we'll post out a video about that. So to give you guys an apt review of the FJ, I thought the best moment to do this exercise would be while driving it, and specifically in the dunes that it is designed to be driven in. So like I said earlier, this car is designed to be light, and it's designed to put down power with the right amount of power, not excessive amount of power. So I don't like wheel spin. I prefer having very purpose full speed. That can't be the right word. So I like to have the right amount of speed for the situation. Never too much, never too little. Because either way, if the speed is too much, then you will go over obstacles that you wouldn't usually be able to, but you will jump over them, which is not what I prefer doing. I prefer a very smooth drive, even when we are in the dunes. And because of that, I ensure that this car, whenever I am driving it, it's always at the right amount of speed. Never too much, never too little. But this car is truly a very capable car. So somehow it shares all the suspension components with the Toyota Prado, including the chassis, but somehow this car feels very different from a very modified Toyota Prado. Nick has a Prado 150, which he has modified in the exact same way as I have modified my car. So he has the same suspension, the same kind of exhaust. He has a bit more power than me, obviously, because he has the newer engine. And I think his exhaust and intake configuration is a bit more aggressive. And he got this custom tune done, which has given him some more power than I have, because it feels significantly, his car feels significantly more powerful than mine. But my car, somehow, because of the design of the FJ, it's able to put down power more effectively, in my opinion. It's always more stable. It feels, the only way to describe it, I guess, it feels more like a Jeep than a Land Cruiser, the FJ. Whereas a Prado feels more like a Land Cruiser than a Jeep. That is the simplest way I can describe what I'm feeling here. And this is why I prefer the FJ, because it has the reliability of a Toyota at the end of the day. And it can pretty much do anything and everything a Jeep can. Now these modern off-roaders, however, like the Bronco and the 392 that have come, now these cars are insanely capable. Straight out of the factory, they're very, very capable. But even though my car was made 15 years ago, Toyota's technology from that era, it is still very capable as compared to even these modern off-road specific cars, which I really think is a true testament of how good this car is. That even after so many years, it's still relevant, and it's still able to, with a bit of tweaking, like I've done, with the suspension and the air intake and a bit of tweaking, nothing major, because the idea is to always keep it as reliable as possible. So performance should, in my mind, will never supersede the importance of reliability. Reliability is if the car isn't running, then there's no point of it having 1000 horsepower, because you can't use those 1000 horsepower all the time. What's the point of having those 1000 horsepower? That's my opinion. Different people could have different opinions. And yes, I do respect the desire to have 1000 horsepower, because I think it would be fun to have 1000 horsepower, but I would much rather have much fewer horses under my hood and be able to use them all the time than have 1000 horsepower and never really have the confidence or the ability to use these 1000 horses. So I prefer having my car in this configuration, but the suspension and other bits that I could tweak with, I have, and they work really well. Really happy with the suspension these days. But I do wonder, what is a long travel kit like? Because I've never tried a long travel kit on this car yet. And obviously there is no limit to how much you can modify your car, but I think I should stop modifying my car now. And then there are times when I suddenly think, no, I should perhaps see what a long travel kit would feel like, or supercharger would feel like on this car. But we'll see. So as always, thanks for tuning in. And if you have any questions about my FJ, please let me know, and I will try to answer them. If there are too many questions, then I will even create a second part of this video. But let's see. Thanks for watching.